this video I'm going to show you how to use the Blichmann BeerGun. It's used to bottle beer with very little to no oxygen at all. One of the big problems for home brewing without the fancy equipment that they have at breweries is exposing our beer to oxygen, which ruins it basically. Can turn it dark and change the flavor, etc., and it's not very good. So you want to reduce oxygen exposure to your beer as much as possible, and the best way when bottling is to use something like this. This is the best one I've found. It's really easy to use, and I'll show you how to do it in this video. So the basic idea is that it's got two connections. One is for the beer and one is for the gas, and you would fill the bottle up, purge it with CO2 before you introduce the beer. So it's got two triggers on it. This one is for the gas and this one is for the beer. So you would squirt gas into the bottle. It would be pushing it all out about 5 seconds, and then boom, you get going with the beer. And then at the end you would just give it another blast of gas just to be double sure, and then you would cap it like you would on your normal bottling day. So your liquid line attaches on the end here and the gas here. I've modified my one, so it normally just has a thread here that you'd screw on. They give you a tubing with double-ended screws, so you just screw it on here. But I find it's much easier to just do the normal way that you would attach to a corny keg. So this is just a corny keg post, and I've got an adapter. I can link it down below. It's much easier, I find, than having to unscrew it all the time when you want to use it. Everything comes with the pack. You get like a little plastic suitcase. It looks like what you would get if you bought like a power drill or something, and it comes with everything you need, with all the tubing and all of the disconnects, etc. So it's all pretty quick and easy to set up. In terms of its use, you can use it with your kegs, but if you're not up to the point of kegging and you haven't splashed out on a kegerator or made your own, you could use, say, the Foamzilla or the Kegmenter, any pressure fermentation vessel that you might have, and you could bottle straight from that. So it would just be the same process as bottling from the keg. You could just do it straight from the pressurized fermenter. So that could be a cheaper way of reducing oxygen exposure, but not going full whack with your full kegging system. But I'm lucky to have a kegging system. I made my own kegerator, so I can do it. My main recommendation with this is that you have two gas lines. So I've got two taps, and I've got two kegs in there, and I can set them at different PSIs. So I have a double regulator. But there's different ways that you can do it. You can have inline mini regulators. I happen to have a big regulator with two knobs that I can change the PSI for each keg. So the idea is, because you need gas coming through here, but you also need gas on your keg to maintain head pressure so that it's coming out the ends, and they need to be at different PSIs. So this one, you could have it at, say, like 12 PSI, because you want to blast the O2, the oxygen out of your bottle, but the keg needs to be at a lower PSI because you don't want to force the beer out too quickly. So you would bleed the keg before you start, and then you would set repressurize it at 6 PSI. I think 6 is the recommended one. I haven't used any other PSI because it works for me. It doesn't foam up when I do it, and the flow is a nice speed. It's not too slow, so you can get through bottles quite quickly. Doesn't take too much time to fill them up. If you didn't have two gas lines, say you only had a one tap system, or perhaps you just are using your pressurized fermenter and you just have one gas line, you could, if you use this adapter, it would make it life a lot easier. You could have it pressurize the keg to the right to the 6 psi, then you could take it off and connect it here, and then do it. And then as you get, you might get through maybe 3 or 4 bottles, and then the head pressure would run out. So you could quickly unattach, reset the psi, repressurize the keg to 6 psi, and then reattach it here. It will be a bit fiddly, but it's doable if you want to do it that way. You basically just need to make sure that you remember the different psi's, so 6 psi, 12 psi. But you could get away with it. But to make life as easy as possible, 2 gas lines at 2 different psi's is the perfect setup. But yeah, I will show you how I do it. You know, I've already done one. You can see, does it really nicely. But yeah, I'll get on and show you. It's just like a normal bottling day, except you're using this. So you're gonna want to have a bottle brush. I've got like a capping system, etc. I've got another video on how I bottle, so I've already covered all of that stuff. But today I'll focus on this. But yeah, before I start, just to say, I mean, it's like anything in brewing. You need to make sure everything is clean. So I squirt the sanitizer down this wand and let it flow out the bottom, so I know that the inside is nice and sanitized. I also squirt down this tubing to make sure that the tubing is all sanitized. I have a bucket here, so I just rest it in there in between bottles. But yeah, I guess the only thing else to say is that when you attach this, is going to be oxygen in this line. So if you want to be really, really, you know, on top of it or pedantic or whatever about it, I squirt out the first bit of beer into a glass and just drink that, because then I know that the beer in the line hasn't been exposed to the oxygen, and all the oxygen has been pushed out with the bit of beer that I've put into a glass. So the beer in here is completely oxygen free. And then yeah, you attach this to the keg, you click on this if you've bought the adapter, and away you go. I'll show you how it's done. Bottle brush, this is your normal sanitizer here in the bucket. Just make sure that everything is nice and clean and sanitized in your bottles. So I just give it a quick brush. Empty it out. So I have my gas hooked up to the bottom of the beer gun here, beer line hooked up. I have the keg set at around 6 psi, so I bled it and then attach the other gas to put it at 6 psi. That means that the beer should hopefully flow nicely without it foaming up inside the bottle. So you get a cap ready, sanitize it, just leave it there. So everything should be clean. Gas should be working. Yeah. So everything is ready. So you give it 5-second blast with the gas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you pull the trigger and at an angle so that it's under beer as quickly as possible, so it doesn't foam up too much. And then once you've got it enough beer in there, you can put it upright. Give it a little blast of gas, caps on. There you go. see, there's enough space in there. The foam pushed out all the oxygen, I think. So yeah, that's a no oxygen bottled beer straight from the keg. Looks pretty clear as well.
So the wand is actually designed that it displaces enough beer, whatever the beer, the bottle size. So as you can see, I filled it all the way up to the top. So the liquid, not just the foam, the liquid is right at the top, and then you pull the wand out, and that should leave you with enough headspace in the bottle. So you can fill it up all the way to the top, so that a bit of foam might come out the top, but that's actually good because it's pushing all of the air out. And then, like I said, if you really want to go properly, you can blast it with the last bit of CO2 just before you put the cap on.